my Instagram as well. All right, I believe we are live. Yes, we are.
Nice.
And yeah, so obviously, Six Nations officially done and dusted for the year.
Yeah.
A
All the fun
look
is
back.
over.
I'm going to go ahead and put up the final. We call it the standings. You call
Yeah,
it
the
the
standings,
table. Yeah, the
yeah.
rankings at the end of it. We'll go ahead and throw that up here. Let me get both of us on screen here, and we can kind of just chit chat.
I like the color scheme.
Yeah, that's actually from their social media, which I did bring up, like having being
Fucking
a being a rugby championship guy. That is one thing. The finances that you brought up, and then obviously the presentation overall, the Six Nations trumps the rugby championship by far. Like the television presentation, the
yeah.
graphics, the social media, everything. So
TV numbers as well. But
yeah. So let's go ahead and start with yesterday. Obviously, I had picked Ireland to win big. Jack Crowley gets the start. I'm
yeah,
thinking this is going to be a proper thrashing, and Italy could have won that fucking thing.
easily could have won that game. Ireland didn't really turn up. It's as if once they lost that France game, it seemed like they really didn't give a fuck. But
It just kind of gave up because they knew the game was kind of for nothing.
it's such an anticlimax to lose that France game in the way that it's the way they lost it as well. When you lose a game and it's a tight game, and a ref decision or a piece of brilliance wins the game, you can kind of go, oh well, look, that's fair enough. But the way they lost to France and their own performance was pretty, I'd say, deflating to that team.
Yeah, definitely agree, 100%.
So I
It's
mean,
it,
yeah,
it you kind of like, at least for me, I was hoping that you would see a bit more I guess a little bit more fever, especially with the guys, especially with Jack Crowley, who had just not gotten to start.
yeah,
And
I know, but look, yeah, I mean, we talked about that the last day, and I said too little, too late. That's not going to make a difference to him. Playing against Italy, Jesus. I mean, that's almost a like traditionally when we blood players, you get like the two easiest games in the season to play. And if you perform well there, you might get a shot at one of the bigger games. But
yeah.
so for Crowley to be sent down to play the Italy game, like that's a kick in the face.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's kind of the thing that probably I felt like maybe he kind of knew too, like, hey, this is the kind of disrespect, so I'm not going to come out here. And I mean, he had some really great Hugo Keenan, the assist to the Hugo Keenan try.
Yep.
He showed, look, man, I am better, but it just seemed like the team around him also had kind of just given up too. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just on him. And you go into half, game's really close, the game ends close, and then obviously Peter O'Many, Connor Murray, and who else's last game was it? San
Uh,
Healy,
Keen
Ken
Healy
Healy.
last day, like he didn't play the game, but yeah,
Yeah. So who
yeah.
were the three that played their official last game yesterday?
But there was only two that played the official
It
last
was
game.
O'Many and Connor Murray.
Yeah, Healy was in the extended squad, just there for the photos, basically. But
So
uh,
you had brought it up at the end of the game, um, how you kind of saw Jack Crowley kind of walking around away from the team and had just a very um,
well,
how would you describe the maybe stoic look on his face? Like,
I guess like Crowley is the kind of character. He's a fighter, right? He's very very strong minded guy. I know he wouldn't have been happy with his performance at all, just because of his, the kicks he missed. It's not good by his standards, and like his form is very up and down off the tee. I thought he had a decent game, but I guess where I was coming from was, and I'm not quite sure what the conclusion of that was, but I just said keep an eye out because everyone is going to be looking at Peter O'Mahony and Conor Murray, but this could be Jack Crowley's last game, and nobody's giving him attention, and it may well have been. We don't know. So,
well, something I did want to bring up with that. I mean, he is only 25 years old, so there could be the potential that he does take this Leicester contract with the Tigers to replace Andre Pollard, essentially. And he could come back. I mean, we saw it with Johnny Sexton. He took that contract. Who was it that he took it? He went to France, right? No,
Racing 92.
Racing 92, and then he came back. Like it was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go make a quick paycheck, and I'll be right back.
But he wasn't. Johnny was allowed to play with Ireland. This is another one of these double standard rules that we've gotten the habit of discussing or discovering in Irish rugby. Certain players are allowed to keep playing with Ireland when they move abroad, and other players are not. And that's, yeah.
I've only seen it in my recent memory. New Zealand has done it once. They had a guy playing in Japan. It was an injury cover. I can't even think. Was that Matt Dodd, I think is who it was. Anyways, it was somebody that just kind of came back for injury cover. But
yeah,
who knows? Was that Crowley's last game as an Irish player? We don't know, but I mean, with the rumors kind of, and I've heard people kind of say, look, they do this all the time. They do it to put pressure on the IRFU to get more money, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But with the new coaching staff coming in with Clayton McMillan to Munster next year, maybe this was it. Maybe this was, and I mean, like, it's not really the way you'd want to go out at 25 years old with 20 plus caps. But if that's what it was, that's what it was. I know you've got Sam Prendergrass, and then the other 10 you have is like Kieran Frawley?
Yeah, Kieran Frawley with Leinster. I mean, there are more. There's more. There's one or two. There's a guy. There's a New Zealand-born guy playing with Ulster, he's only really coming into it at the moment. He's meant to be pretty good. But look, I mean, if you want my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the IRFU will be. I think they're going to see the writing on the wall, and we could be talking like a major split in Irish rugby that's going to set. It's going to, like, if that happened, you know, like it could set Ireland back a long time. You know, just in terms of goodwill, like, you know, they talk about like hashtag team of us. You know, is it really the team of us? Is it the team of you and your couple of friends that are very close to you? You know, or is it? You know, that's the.
So it's the eternal argument.
Yeah.
That and I'm gonna say this as being a neutral guy. Granted, I do have a Munster jersey. I do support quite a bit more Munster, obviously, and I'm going to be supporting them more in the future for obvious reasons with Clayton McMillan.
Cool.
But I hate to say it. You know, when a Munster player has a bad game, they crucify that player.
Yeah.
But when Leinster players have bad games, oh no, it's okay, they're allowed. And it's like if Bundy Aki has an off game, they throw his ass under the bus.
He's finished. He's finished. Yeah.
It's
all that kind of stuff. You see how quickly it went from Bundy is the best center in world rugby to, he's nearly finished now. You know, he's completely.
And now he's like showing like, no, guys, I'm not finished. I'm not done. Yeah. And I do love that about the guy. I love that about the guy a lot. That's the Kiwi in him. That's the key. That's just that spirit of just like, I'm not done yet, guys. And like I said, the Leinster Brigade, the Blue Brigade is all over it. And it's like, it does bother me a lot because it's like when one of your players has a bad game, it's okay. But when anybody else's player has a bad game, they're done. They're over the hill. They don't need to pick them anymore. And it's like, will you not be happy until the entire Irish starting 15 is Leinster, basically? And they're like, oh, well, we've got the best team. And it's like, but do you? How many URC titles do you have? Oh yeah, Munster has one though, right? Yeah.
When's the last time they won the European Cup? Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, you claim that you have the best team, but at the end of the day, you really have fuck all to show for it in recent memory. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
when Leinster beats a team, it's like, okay, well, Leinster beat a team. When you see, like, a Connacht beat a Glasgow or an Edinburgh or a South African team, you're like, damn, that took real fucking skill.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's with Leinster, it's almost like a given. Like, oh, they're going to win every single game they play.
Well, like the thing about it is, it's so polarized at the moment that it is obvious even in the media. Like, for journalists who are, you know, trying to stay remotely neutral, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
even trying to. Like, they're just clearly saying, like, there's this thing at the moment where all the journalists say it's just this. No, this has come from them. It's come from no. It's not come from Ireland, but they say, oh, it's just accepted now that Prendergast he's the number one, and that's the one that they're going pinning their future on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody has ever said that in the coming out of Ireland. In fact, the only official word that they gave was, we want to give him a run of games, which is, they want to give him some time in the actual hot seat to try and develop. Now, you can agree or disagree with that. I personally disagree with that policy and how you would actually bring a young 10 in, but that's what they officially said. Now, the Leinster media have just taken that as, oh, well, he's number one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't know what conversations have been had with Jack Crowley, but I don't think he looks happy. I'd say his head has been turned, and one of the key kind of objective kind of markers to look at in this is his contract has not been sorted out, and we're in the middle of March.
March, yeah. Yeah. And you said it's typically before the end of the year that's all sorted out, right?
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, obviously Ireland finishes third. I believe that's where they deserved to finish.
Yeah.
For me, I just did my podcast with my South African friend, and we did talk a bit about the Six Nations. And for me, it was like, why did I pick Ireland to do the three-peat? And it was a pretty simple answer. You guys came down to South Africa last summer and lost a game, and then turned around and absolutely smacked the Springboks in the face, smacked them in the mouth, drew blood of Eben Etzebeth early
Yeah.
in the game, and the Springboks never recovered.
Yeah, they absolutely fucking
You
assaulted.
you came down and you got your respect, and that's the Ireland team that I expected. I expected it going into the Autumn Nation series, obviously losing to New Zealand, which was, I brought up a serious point and all that. I still think that there needs to be a warm-up game for the European teams leading into that, because the Rugby Championship ended 3 weeks before that, 4 weeks before that.
Yeah.
The Southern Hemisphere teams don't need a warm-up match. They don't need one at all.
No.
I felt like Ireland would have benefited with a warm-up match, maybe against a Portugal or a Georgia or a USA or what, just to get the kinks out, get the rust out, get the boys in camp. And I think you would have seen a bit of a different result. But then we kind of saw the same result this entire Six Nations. And, it's obviously the people are like, oh, Ireland's peaked, they're falling off. That could be it. But I think maybe even the bigger issue is you're going through growing pains. You're having to replace key guys, but I think the bigger one is Simon Easterby is not your coach.
No, I agree. I think that the difference we've seen has been night and day, between having Andy Farrell on site and just relying on Guy and Simon Easterby. I don't want to be too critical of him either, because it's got to come down to the players too. Like, I had a conversation with my dad actually and another friend of mine yesterday, and we were just talking about the pack. They just seemed like a bunch of excuse my language, but a bunch of fucking pussies. We're like,
yeah.
When are you going to start busting heads? Like, what's going on? Like, that's what I felt. I was looking at the collisions against Italy.
Where the fuck was Kalen Doris? Like, this is a guy that was the best a year ago. And it was like he almost became like a non-factor in this tournament. He became a non-factor.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
where is the guy that was in the shit, fucking things up in the rucks, getting over balls, getting turnovers?
yeah. I kind of agreed, but I felt that about a lot of the pack. I knew the front row were going to be under serious pressure because we didn't have Furlong for most of it, and in general, we're usually fairly tight when it comes to front rows. But like I thought, the second row, the guys in the second row and the back row they got a pass mark at best, but nothing
Yeah, there was no dominance at the scrum. There was no dominance at the line out, and this was in every game. Like, you had a few bright flashes here and there, but really, like,
Yeah,
to me, the biggest brightest flash I saw in this entire tournament for Ireland was Dan Sheehan
yeah,
basically putting his hand up, and I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I'm putting him on like the plateau, like up there with like Malcolm Marks. Like, he's one of the best at his position in the world. He's
easy.
so fucking dominant. He's so fast. He's aggressive. He's exciting. He's really the only bright spot on your front row. And the reemergence of Bundy Aki, basically once again saying, "Look, guys, I'm not done."
Yeah,
I think the Ringrose suspension didn't help.
didn't.
You got to have Bundy and Ringrose. They're just world class at center. Um,
But
but that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse.
it isn't. It isn't. Look, and I kind of I struggle to get my head around the mentality of just how this Six Nations was planned in general. If you were genuinely going to say, okay, we want to do a three-peat, and we'd like to do, you know, we'd like to do, a Grand Slam as well. Of course, you're going to,
Yeah.
especially if you make 9 million out of it, you're going to, which is a lot more than even a World Cup would pay. But like, how are you going to set up your team? Are you going to really put a kid in at fly half for 4 out of the 5 games and try? And I mean, that's huge. Imagine if Ireland went to, just say it was the All Blacks and South Africa in a competition just like that, and we turned up with a kid like that. I mean, first of all, like the box and this,
Yeah.
the All Blacks are going to go, this is very arrogant. This is a very arrogant move to try and you're not giving much respect here. So, like, that's just the way I looked at it. It's like, if you were going to go for, okay, we're going to blood guys, do it, but do it across the team. Do it across.
And not just that, but blood them in games where, like, you have victory is a little bit more certain. Blood them against Italy, blood them against Wales. But when it comes to playing Scotland, England, France, there's no blooding. Like, now, you say you don't do that. Like, last summer, obviously, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu started both games against the All Blacks, but he also had Andre Pollard on the bench.
Okay.
So he gets pulled, comes out. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like
security blanket.
They didn't throw him into the deep end without any. They threw him into the deep end with some floaties on. You know what I mean? Like, okay, hey, dude. And you put the key guys. You have Cheslin Colby around him. He has class 9. He has all the pieces are around him are solid. And I could see that with a Pendergrass. You put him out there with the key pieces around him and you work. But they weren't doing that this time. They put a front row that was lackadaisical at best. He's missing for most of the series his ace number 12 and Ringrose. You're missing Hansen. You miss Lowe for a game. They bring in Calvin Nash. You weren't. If you're wanting to give the guy confidence, this is not how you give a young player confidence.
Yeah. So the strategy for me was kind of all a bit just too mixed up. It's not clear, what you're actually trying to do. And like the execution was even worse. It's just our attack was shocking. Now, like, there's going to be questions asked about this new attack coach that came in, because essentially that's his job. But if people are not willing to criticize Prendergast at 10 because he's too young, are they going to criticize Goodman, who's just come in? What is he doing? Is he trying to reinvent the wheel so much so that Ireland are kind of stuttering and not really knowing what they're doing or what's going on, because it wasn't a free flowing attack like Ireland normally have. And while I do think defenses have adjusted to Ireland, I watched a bit of analysis there last night, and I totally agreed with it. If you go back to the autumn, so if you watch the Australia game, everybody was expecting Australia to get absolutely hammered against Ireland, and Joe Schmidt pulled out a number and set up their defense to play in a really passive way. So Ireland's attack was optimized ideally for the box and for France, which is the up and in kind of Russian defense.
Yeah.
We play short passes and look for gaps in between because if you have a rush, shooter, you have a gap. So that's where Ireland looked to. But a passive kind of set out wide defense is that's how Australia had Ireland's number and almost nearly beat them. So then most teams actually went that way against us in the Six Nations, and it kind of,
you feel like maybe they figured out your tricks and then they just attacked them. And I mean, like, look, that's so the difference between good teams and great teams, in my opinion, are the teams that can adjust on the fly and can change. That's what made Ireland so fucking deadly against the Springboks, because they could adjust like that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that this 16. I didn't see it at all.
Shit
didn't work, and they kept doing it over and over again, and it still didn't work. I think part of that is the coach. Andy Farrell is a different kind of beast. He's a different kind of beast. He is a alpha. 100%. Like he's cut from that cloth. He's cut from that alpha cloth of like, my shit doesn't stink and I'm about to fuck you up and show you why.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that with the British and Irish Lions tour, regardless. Granted, they are playing the only team they have a winning record against in the Southern Hemisphere on this tour. But I think it can't be soon enough for Andy Farrell to get back in the Ireland camp, because I think a lot of the issues that we're talking about, I think this last year he had it during the summer, but as we got into the autumn series, he was already concentrating on the British and Irish Lions tour. And I think when he comes back, he's going to clean house. I think house is going to get clean. He's going to get guys in order, and because that's just what kind of coach I think Andy Farrell is. He's going to come in and he's going to whoop some ass. He's going to whip some ass. He's going to kick some asses and say,
I agree. There's a lot of things. I mean, it's just going back to the game yesterday. And I'm talking about the attack. There was a few times I was screaming at the TV. Like, oh God, if I can see where the gaps are, guys, how can you not?
How can you not? Yeah.
I saw one. If you looked at our first try, first of all, it took us 20 minutes to score.
That was the biggest shocker. That, like, I knew we were in for a long match when I turned it, because I turned it on 15 minutes into the game. I text you, hey, who scored the try? And then I watched it from there, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah, it was shocking. Like they got a driving maul off a line out that wasn't contested, and they sucked in all the Italian defenders. The driving maul was quite effective yesterday. They scored a couple of tries off it, but they sucked in all the Italian defenders. And then Gibson Park, and I will be critical of him. Some people call him the best in the world.
He had a terrible game yesterday. He was fucking terrible, man.
And he goes for the line instead of giving the ball out when there was, acres. There was acres of space and about at least 4 guys over waiting for the ball and for a walk-in try. It would have been at least a 4-on-2. And that kind of happened a lot. They seem to be just making it harder for themselves. Eventually, in the second half, you saw them run 1 or 2 plays where they took it in tight, made ground, and Crowley screamed for the ball out, and they got it out, and they scored a try. There was one where he gets it out, and then he plays a dummy. The Italian defender jumps like an idiot, and then he passes it in for an easy try. But that's all it would have taken after like 10 minutes, and they would have had the first try. So they just made it so much harder than it needed to be.
So obviously we have a break for a while of Test rugby. Um, I just looked it up because I was curious because I know that England is doing Argentina in the U.S. Italy is going to South Africa. France is going to New Zealand. Wales is going to Japan. That should be an interesting run there. But Ireland is doing, but they are doing a tier two series. They're going to be playing Georgia, Portugal, and Romania.
Yeah,
So I'm imagining that this is going to be like Ireland A playing those teams. Um,
that's the big question, isn't it?
well,
Like,
do
I
you
hope
think? Do you think that they should take these games seriously?
not in any way, shape, or form. Like, they should send. This should be, you know, this should be all of the guys that they consider to be what we call like players of interest, persons of
Yeah,
interest.
yeah, yeah.
You know, are these guys going to make it at some level? You know, because we played them against a tier two nation, and if we lose, we lose. Who cares? It's arguably just a step above under 20s rugby. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's
suffice to say, people keep saying that, oh, they should bring Georgia and Romania into the Six Nations, and I'm like, no, they shouldn't. And they're like, why? Why? Wales and Italy are bad, and I'm like, you think 70 points and 60 points, dude? That's every game you're going to be playing against Georgia and Romania.
yeah,
They are not close to being a tier one team,
I,
regardless of what you think. They are very far behind.
I tell you, there was a funny because you're talking about who's going to go on the tour. There was a funny interview with one of the Irish broadcasters, right, straight after the game finished with Sam Prendergast, okay, and she said, "Are you going to be going on tour with Ireland in the summer?" Like, and as in on this tour you were talking about, and he just kind of laughed and kind of just he said, "Oh, I'm just going to celebrate tonight with the guys," and but there was a snigger on his face, as
Yeah.
in, I expect to be going on the lines of, on the lines, but let me tell you, if they take him on the lines, they're going to get, that's a
Oh, man.
bad mistake.
So I have to say that France game to me, Prendergast played himself out of getting selection for the
Yeah,
British. I just not with the way you've got Marcus Smith, Finn Russell, Finn Smith, all these. There's guys that are way ahead of him in the pack. If he gets taken, he might get to play against like the Queensland Reds or something like that. But I don't see him actually playing a meaningful test because there's just I'm not the biggest Finn Russell fan, but the facts are facts. He's much better than Sam Prendergrass, like much
much
much better.
he's a
And for what we saw Finn Smith do, uh, the Six Nations, he definitely was like, yeah, I'm better than Sam as well. Despite what Leinster fans want to say to themselves, your boy is not as good as those guys. He's just not, man.
he played a great game for England, a
Yeah,
couple of great games. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that if he gets selected, it's an outlying chance. I don't think Crowley gets selected. I really don't.
No,
Um, I think there's going to be some shocking omissions on this. I think it's the idea that they think Andy Farrell's going to be heavy on Irish talent. I do think there's going to be a good chunk of Ireland, but I think you're going to be shocked. There's probably going to be a lot of English and Scottish guys on the team too. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to be. I think everybody thinks Kalen Doris is a shoe-in for captain. I actually don't think that's who's going to end up being the captain, honestly.
Maro Itoje has a shot, I
I
think.
think it's going to be Maro Itoje, to be honest with you, just because it's Australia. He's a lock. He's there for every game. It's not, even though I don't think he's the best lock of those four nations, I just think captaincy wise, he's definitely going to be the guy that.
I'll tell you,
There's the guy. I don't know if you can see it. Rugby takes balls. That's the guy I do my podcast with in South Africa. He lives in. He's about our age, so we talked a bit about it, and it was kind of the thing with him too. He was just kind of like shocked at how bad Ireland was too, considering they came to our backyard and smacked us
yeah,
in the face. And like,
yeah.
you play like that, that's how you beat everyone in the world when you do that. And they just
Oh yeah,
didn't do it
definitely.
this year. They just did not do it. And
No, it's hard to do. Like it is hard to reproduce it. You know, you kind of need all the pieces of the jigsaw there. You know, but
Yeah.
and they just didn't. They just didn't have them. And I don't even know if they had the motivation either. You know, I really don't. I don't know what was missing.
I,
Like you have to take this into account, right? So if you see a guy, just say you're a member of a squad and you fought like hell to get into the squad, you know, and it's been bloody hard to get your place in the squad. And then you see some guy parachuted in out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. You think that doesn't affect the whole squad? I think it does.
yeah.
I, I think that sort of stuff. As much as people are like, "Oh, we really support," you know, and you do support your teammate as soon as he's in there, but does it affect the overall squad? I think it kind of does. It's my opinion. If you know, in my own work environment, if something like that happened, you know, I'd be kind of a little bit peed off. But so yeah,
But I think that's like I'm saying. It's like you if you're a man and you see that shit, you buck up and you grow nuts and you fight up. You know what I mean? Like if it's like if somebody came into my company and I thought they were going to take my job, guess what? I'm going to show you, motherfucker, you're not getting my job. And I felt like Crowley failed that miserably yesterday. Like,
yesterday I think he did, yeah.
yeah, he should have come out and said, "Nah, man, I'm better than this guy, bar none." And he really, which isn't saying much because I don't think you'd have to do much to be better than Sam Prendergrass at this point. Now there were, like I said, there were portions of his game where he was, dude, his offloading was fucking, and he was getting in the lanes for some of those offloads that like you never see Sam get in those areas of the field. Like he was getting in the mix. Like
he'll take the hit, no problem. He's got no.
he doesn't mind doing an offload and getting fucking leveled and just getting folded like a table. Like he does not mind that. And I do, like I said, I do love that about him, that like he has that gall, he has the balls to do that, and you don't see it with Sam. Sam is just so timid, like he just doesn't want to get in the mix. And I think that's an age thing, obviously, but I just, with that being said, man, I think the mountain, yeah, see,
He is,
I
yeah.
mean,
You're right.
he's better. He's better.
I'm going to make reference back to when we saw the Stormers get beat in South Africa for the URC final.
Yeah.
I remember that 5 minutes into the game, and we had a penalty on the halfway, and
I've got the jersey. I've got the jersey from that game, man.
Were you at that game?
No, I got it online, but it's that particular test, and it doesn't say the final score on it, unfortunately.
But he had a great game that day. Like,
oh, I mean, fuck yeah, yeah.
He was just on the ball, like. But so yeah, there is a lot more to come from Crowley. I totally agree with RTB there. Like, there is. It's just like, I don't know. I mean,
now we don't know if we'll ever see him again.
It's true.
That's the sad part. That's the sad part.
It's true, and let me tell you, there's going to be there'll be war if that happens. Absolute war. But yeah. I wanted to mention about the France game, that incident yesterday.
Oh yeah. You need to bring this up because that shit was obvious. The officiating in this tournament was downright deplorable at times, man. It was fucking bad, and it was all, I hate to say it, 90% of the time it was Southern Hemisphere referees doing it.
It was, yeah. I mean, just even like in the Ireland game, did you see the try that got chalked off? When
yeah, who was the referee? Was that the Georgian guy yesterday?
No, he was an English guy. Or was it? Oh no, hold on.
Was it Matthew Carley?
No, Matthew Carley was doing France and Scotland.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look it up because.
But the incident I'm talking about was James Lowe, and he takes like 3 steps along the line and gives a ball inside for a try, but it was ruled as in touch. But then the replay showed that he was absolutely perfectly in play. He was expertly in play, is what he was. But
I'm seeing assistant, but I don't see. No, I don't even see who the head referee was. It doesn't show on Wikipedia. It shows Gardner. Obviously, I saw him on the TV, and I was like, "What the fuck is that guy doing there?"
Oh yeah, it was Luke Pearce.
Luke Pearce, yeah, that's who it was. Because I know that Wales had Ben Curry, or no, excuse me. Oh yeah, Holly was at the England game, but yeah, the officiating was, God, it was fucking bad at times. I mean, there was the obvious Oh, was that Muvaka? Who was that? Who was that? The France game, was that Muvaka that did that?
Yeah, so the French hooker, if you remember the incident, the Scotland back, I can't tell you who it was.
Yeah,
He gets pushed over, right? First
yeah,
of all, so it's like the ball is gone. There's no this is way off the ball, and he gets pushed over Mauvaka, who's on the ground, and then as Mauvaka gets up, he obviously takes the hit off the guy falling down, and he loses the head, and he just launches himself directly head first at the player who's on the ground. And the guy's on the ground. Do you know what I mean? He
yeah.
can't defend himself. Like it's as bad as it gets, in my opinion. But the referee sends it to the bunker to be reviewed.
And
Obviously, gives
it was painfully obvious it was a red card. Painfully
painful.
obvious. Yeah,
But
it's oh man, it's something that bothers me about World Rugby. I feel like the officiating needs to be. I'd done a podcast with my boy RTB here, and we talked about things that we wish other sports that rugby would bring in from other sports to
yeah,
rugby. And in the NFL here, we have what's called a challenge flag, and the head coach gets to carry it on the sidelines. And if he feels like a call has been made an error, he can throw the challenge flag, and they'll take it to the league office in New York for like the big team, like it's like a big time, like they have professional guys that analyze all of it, and they'll either overturn the play and it goes the favor of the flag, and the coach gets to keep the flag at that point, or the play stands and they lose a timeout and they lose the flag. I kind of wish rugby would do that,
I
and and
something.
like have the captain have a way to challenge, like if he gets word from the sideline, hey man, you need to go back and look at that, he throws the challenge flag. If the play is reversed, they get the possession, the play comes back, they get possession, and he gets to keep the flag. Now if you throw the flag and the play stands, you lose the ability to use the flag for the rest of that half.
That's like I think that's fair enough. I
and
mean,
and I think what you'd get immediately with that is if you saw referees that were just one-sided, you know that referee needs to go back to school.
yeah,
That referee needs to lose his certification to officiate a game until he's completed. Kind of like when you do a high tackle, you get too many red cards, you have to go to a tackle school.
mm.
You do that with the officials because I think it would keep the officials fair. Because
I think it's an interesting idea. I think you're right because there's there's so much that's up for interpretation. Now, not this incident that we were
yeah,
talking
no,
about,
no, no, not that at all. But like,
but like scrums, things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's perceived that someone is like scrumming illegally, but they may or may not be. Do you know? Like
yeah,
sometimes you need an objective view or a couple of heads to
yeah.
really make a call.
I think it would kill the whole idea of referee biasing too, like because you wouldn't be able to do it if it gets overturned and whatever. Like you're gonna realize if a referee is missing, if there's a lot of challenge frags that keep getting that referee needs to go back to class. He's missing too many things.
Yeah, I think it's
we
really not
we
a bad idea.
and I don't like it when people send death threats to these guys after games and stuff like that. But I think there also needs to be a more accountability. If you have a bad game as a referee,
Mm.
World Rugby needs to hold you accountable. You need to be sent to classes. You know what I mean? It's like anything else. Like if you do a high tackle, you got to get sent to classes. If you break the drug program here in America in sports, you have to go to you have to go to drug abuse classes
Yeah,
before you're ready to play again. Like they want you to not do it again. And
I think
I think that's what we need to do with the officials is we need to like hold them accountable. Like
like two things. One, they definitely are being held accountable, and I even know the guy. I know the like it's Nigel Owens. He's in charge of the like the,
one of the greatest ever.
yeah, one of the greats. He is definitely one of the greats. But he's in charge of like the referee review, basically.
Yeah.
But like the other thing we have to say is, I think they're really afraid to openly criticize referees because we don't have enough of them. Right now,
Yeah.
at the same time, like my point is, all of these protocols we currently have now are discouraging a referee in actually being decisive. But when it might take him 2 minutes. If it would have taken 2 minutes for that referee to look at this, like
And
realize
go,
this,
that's a red card. That's not a yellow. Yeah. It's
you could imagine Nigel Owens or any of the old school referees just tell him, just get out of here. Like, you're out.
well,
Like,
so and it's funny because not him. Who's the Welsh one? Oh God, the Welsh referee,
well,
the gay one.
oh yeah, that's Nigel Owens. Yeah,
Noah. Okay, so he does his little like he'll do on social media. They'll give him an iPad and
yeah,
he'll go through and say, "This is how I would have called this." And I like that about that guy because like
mhm,
he explains to us as fans, this is why this call was made.
yeah,
And I really wish World Rugby would make that a part of everything. Like you get all of your big time referees, you make them do that for social media for everyone to see, to say, hey, this was a game I didn't call, but this is how I would have called it. And this is why the officials called it that way. Because that's the thing. We don't think of these officials as human beings. We think of like, oh, they're here to do that. It's like, no, that's what we liked about night. I know people north of the equator didn't like Jaco Piper that much, but that's why we kind of liked him because he was just a normal dude. Like Nigel Owens was a normal dude. He would admit when he made mistakes, but
yeah.
also the one-liners you can't go without. This isn't soccer. You dive like that again. You know what I mean? The only person talking here is me. I'm the official. You do your job. I'll do mine. It's like,
there's like a highlight reel that's
dude,
it's
he is
endless.
so hilarious, man. Like that was probably one of my favorite ones. Was I'm the official, you're the player. You do your job, I'll do mine. Now go away. Like,
I think I think guys were almost afraid to take him on, like just to
because
argue.
they knew he would say something bad.
Yeah, you just make a fool out of them. But like again, just to say it, like with all these protocols and you know referring everything to the bunker for the sake, and I understand the reason
Yeah,
why they're trying to speed up the game. They don't want 5 minutes wasted getting a decision,
yeah,
even if it's the right decision. They still don't want 5 minutes wasted. But that's only okay if you're getting the right decision. Like that decision that came back from the bunker
was
and
the wrong decision.
the absolute wrong decision. And the
Yeah,
reason, and the referee didn't even think to go, hold on, mate, that's crazy. That wasn't even a tackle, but you're applying mitigation on a situation. There was an active like pure tuggery is what it was. That's a
yeah,
straight. And
yeah,
I guarantee you, he's going to get a ban for that. Like guaranteed.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that's my
But
take.
anyways, so now that the Six Nations is over, we've been having these Six Nations chats. I'm going to say this to you now. We're going to turn this into Munster chat after this. Until Test Rugby returns, we're going to turn this into a Munster Rugby chat weekly. We'll do Munster talk because as we get closer to the end of the year, obviously we'll see what happens with that. But next year with Clayton McMillan coming in, it's going to be a very exciting time for Munster Rugby, in my opinion.
Yeah.
First things first, we need to figure out whether Crowley's going to stay or go. I personally hope he stays, honestly, but if he goes, I don't blame him one bit.
I hear. Listen, I wouldn't blame a guy for securing his future at all. 600 grand a year
Well,
for 3 or 4 years is great money.
and I think that's the difference between us being grown men and most of the fan base on TikTok being kids. They don't understand that, like, this is this man's job.
Yeah, he's got to secure his future.
I don't stay at my company because I like it. I stay at my company because they pay me the best.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like they've got to get out of that mentality that like these guys are professional athletes. They're going to go where the paycheck is the largest for them when they can get it. Um, I've brought it up. You've disagreed, and I'm kind of changing pace on it after the game I watched this weekend. I kept saying, man, maybe DMAC comes to Munster. I don't think DMAC now. Do you know who I think could potentially come with McMillan to Munster?
who's that?
Sean Stevenson.
Okay, I'm gonna have to really brush up on my super.
He's a fullback. He can also play 10, but he's preferably at fullback. Couple of All Blacks caps. He's kind of on the outside looking in because they've got Will Jordan, they've got Bowden Barrett, they've got Damian McKenzie, so he doesn't really have a spot with the All Blacks.
Okay.
and it's become painfully obvious that Scott Robertson is not going to select him, but he's kind of the key that makes Damian McKenzie so damn deadly.
Okay.
Because Damian will play 10, he'll play 15,
Mm.
and he is downright deadly at 15. Like, he is fucking really good. And I'm thinking because he's not going to get an All Black selection, he might potentially be a guy that comes with Clayton McMillan.
Could be
Um,
nice. Like I'm really going to be paying attention to the Chiefs now. You know,
yeah, just to
I need.
see what kind of style they play. They beat the Blues by a single point at home this last week. The Blues are the defending champions. The Chiefs, they did lose at Fiji, but it's fucking Fiji. Yeah, Shooter Stevenson, we're blessed with backline talent. He is a key point of that Chiefs backline, and I could see him going. I could see him bolting, and I could see him going with Clayton because that's part of that build with him. And
Yeah.
if he's not going to get another All Blacks cap, he's just like Jack Crowley. He's going to go where he can get the biggest paycheck because I know that the IRFU does pay a bit more than so the top contracts in Super Rugby are $500,000. Okay,
That's it. Okay.
that's the top contract, and that's going to be for like Bowden Barrett, Will Jordan, um, Damian McKenzie. It's going to be the big names.
Yeah.
Not all Blacks, not all of them make that, but your
Yeah.
big guys, your big names, your big Caleb, probably not Caleb Clark, Mark Talea, those guys, those high end All Blacks, those guys are making $500,000 contracts.
Yeah.
Sean Stevenson is not making that.
Okay.
If Munster could pay him 350,000 euro, 300,000 euros, that'd be a pay raise, and he'd also get to live in Ireland where he doesn't have to deal with 40-degree summers. Like he doesn't, you know what I mean?
One of the other things that hasn't come up yet, and it definitely needs to be highlighted when you talk about contracts, particularly in Ireland, it's tax free. So
Oh no shit, the pay is tax free.
you get treated like a struggling artist. You don't pay any tax.
Is that for import players only? Is that for all players
Unless the country of your, like, say if you were from the US and you still had to pay tax in
in
the
the
US,
United States?
you might be screwed. But other than that, no, it's up across the board.
So it's a, like I said, it's not a. I think it's a lot more of a juicy offer to go to Ireland unless you can get those top French contracts.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like the grind isn't nearly as bad. And then if you're a Kiwi, you get what Kiwis have been begging for. You get to play against South Africans again. And that might make Sean Stevenson look a lot more, hey, maybe we need you back here in New Zealand because you've been playing South Africans for the last year. So
Pretty good.
I still think that that's going to be a part of the deal. I think it may not be a big name, but I know he's going to bring something other than his coaching ability. I think you're going to see at least a semi decently big Kiwi come with McMillan. They're going to figure something out. I just know it's going to happen just because it's kind of what Kiwis are notorious for doing. You look at like Jamie Joseph when he went to Japan. Look at how many Kiwis he brought to Japan with him. Like, it happens, dude. You get this loyalty with your coaching staff, and you follow your coach. So
Yeah, I sure hope so. And obviously the rule, we won't get into it, but we've already gotten into this
yeah,
rule where you couldn't bring in a foreign front row has now been scrapped.
changed. Yeah,
Yeah,
for a particular team to stay relevant, I guess. But
yeah, yeah, just
and
randomly, those two events were not connected at all. Like,
I'm gonna rest in saying this, and I know I'm gonna piss a lot of Leinster fans by saying this.
well, hopefully they all hear you.
Watch you not win a Champions Cup still without fucking Antoine DePaus playing for fucking like watch you still not win
Yeah,
even with him out. Watch you still not win because we've seen it. Deep run, you get to the Bulls and you lose in the playoffs of the URC. Like Leinster is the ultimate bottle in the playoffs team
Yeah.
Munster and Glasgow are the teams that like, oh, they trudge their way into the semis and then make it to the fucking final. Like it's just like
Just
it's a war of attrition. It's not it's trench warfare, not lightning warfare. So
it kind of is, but like when we get to the playoff season of the URC, it is pretty exciting, because you
yeah.
have those playoffs and it's cup rugby then, so you never know what might happen. Obviously, like there's massive pressure on Leinster now, even more so with the likes of Geordie Barrett. We have Argay Snyman as well, and if they shit the bed again, what are they going to do?
Who are you gonna bring in now? Like it's almost like you've already hit the mountaintop. You can't really get much higher as far as bringing in foreign talent. And I have this really big belief. I think Audhey is he on a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal? Is it only a single year deal with Leinster?
I really don't know, but he's on limited playing time anyway. He's not allowed to start
Well,
the game.
I know you had heard Andre Pollard is coming to the Bulls.
Yes.
Highest paid South African domestic rugby player will be Andre Pollard, limited to 15 games. That's all he can play is 15 games.
Is that just related to South Africa, is it? Or just
Yeah,
because
well, he can only play 15 URC matches.
Okay.
And I know why they're doing it. They're wrapping him in cotton at this point.
That's fine.
I think the same thing's going to happen with Arhie Snyman. I think he's going to end up going back to South Africa for the same exact treatment. He's going to go back to the Stormers or the Bulls or something like that. So that'll be, and I mean, they think Barrett's going to go right back to New Zealand. He's not sticking around. He's an All Black. He's a guaranteed All Black. So
yeah, it is funny. Look, I mean, the next big game on my horizon for Munster is against La Rochelle in France.
Oh, for the Champions Cup?
Champions Cup, yeah. It's going to be an outside chance of Munster victory, but listen, they're putting on extra plane journeys just for the amount of Munster fans that are traveling. There's going to be huge support.
How many of those guys do you think will be back this weekend versus Glasgow, or do you think they're going to give all the Six Nations guys a break for a week or two?
They'll potentially. I mean, it depends. I mean, depends. It really depends on Pete and Conor Murray, and I imagine Tyke Byrne will be available.
Yeah.
They they need to win this game. Like this isn't a
because you've got Glasgow and then you've got Connacht after that, the big Derby game. Then you got the Champions Cup. You've got La Rochelle in the postseason, and then it looks like Munster and the Bulls. That should be an interesting one. Cardiff, that should be a win, definitely. And then once again, Ulster on the 9th of May.
Yeah.
And let's see what else you've got after that. Yeah. And then you've got one last one. And I think that finishes up the regular season. You've got Benetton. Speaking of which, I totally forgot one of my favorite All Blacks also played for Munster as well, who plays for Benetton now.
For Benetton now?
Yeah.
One of your favorite All Blacks?
He plays for Tonga now. He doesn't play for the All Blacks anymore.
Oh, Fekitoa, is it?
Dude, Malaka's my boy.
Okay. Fekitoa.
How did he do at Munster? Was he just not really a factor there?
He didn't really do a whole lot for Munster, but he was okay. He was okay. It took him a while. I'd say he was a bit too cold. That's about it.
Yeah, he actually, when I came back to the States, I shot him a message on Facebook one day and was like, hey, do you have any family that lives here? Because we have a large Tongan community here. And he took that message, copied and pasted it, and just posted it on his Facebook wall. Hey, man, do I have any family there? So automatically I start getting friend requests from all these Tongans in my area that are like, yeah, he's my cousin. So it was like, dude, he didn't have to do that. Like, he didn't have to ask just all of his fans, hey, do I have any fans there? And still remain very close with them. They're obviously bigger league people now, but yeah, I totally forgot about Fekitoa. I got on his Instagram and he had like a throwback, Thursday or something like that, memories, and he posted of him. I was like, dude, yeah, you totally played for Munster, didn't you? Because he played for Wasps at first, and then he went to Munster, and now he's playing for Benetton, and that dude is That guy is ripped, man. He was on like the ESPN Bodies issue. Like that guy is like fucking ripped, man. Like he definitely hits the gym.
It,
He hits them weights, but
it's them ways.
yeah. So we'll be back next week, man, for post game Munster talk after the Glasgow game.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I kind of want to continue this because you're an Irishman, and as obviously I'm going to have bigger ties to Munster going forward, and
We have a little bit of excitement. We've got something to
yeah,
talk about. I'm
yeah.
definitely going to start checking out the Chiefs games. It might be an odd time of day or morning for me to do so, but I'll definitely at least
It's
catch up.
not so bad for you guys. It's early morning. For me, it's like the middle of the night usually, or it's like late evening for you guys. For me, it's the middle of the night. So
Just got to find the channels.
yeah, yeah, we'll figure something out. But thanks for chatting with me, man. Hopefully, better luck next year to Ireland in the Six Nations because this year was definitely a wash.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Anyway, that's it.
cheers, folks.